Very well, we begin. Because it seems as if the scent of springtime is already in the air, it is a fine time to begin a topic on, well, wellness, for lack of other words. Wellness, the rejuvenation of the spirit, the soul, the time of beginnings, the time of celebrations. Now, it may not seem to you, based upon all of the events that you see around the globe at this time, that there is much cause for celebration. And yet I will tell you that seen from a variety of perspectives, this is not the case at all. The earth indeed celebrates all things, particularly seasons, and the soul has seasons as well. There are many different aspects to your soul. As you change from aspect or season to season, the soul changes as well. But think now that although your body may age in some respects, and your thoughts may mature in their own way, the soul, in actuality, becomes more interested in youth. And so the more that your mind matures in its process and its experiences and all that it has discovered in its life, the more joy the soul finds. And the more soulful joy, the more that can be extended into all of the different realms, even the physical realm, and even all of the environments in which the self participates. The self is what you are. You are a self or the self. The self is able to relate much more easily to soul. Soul does not need to knock on the door of the self. There is already a two-way thoroughfare, as it would be. On the other hand, soul must knock and knock and knock, hoping that one of the facets of personality will answer, and that it will be in fairly good spirits, in a fairly good mood, in order to acknowledge the wisdom of the soul and the joy with which it comes calling. Many times I am asked, and why is it that I am able to perceive this energy or that, this teacher or the other master, but I am not able to perceive my own soul? Well, that is relatively simple to answer, because in order to perceive and receive your own soul, you must recognize its joyful position. And if you go about your day grumbling about, this is not working, and that did not turn out as I had expected, and the other surely should have gone well by now, you would not notice a subtle, joyful soul essence sitting just next to you, or hoping to be invited to cross from one threshold into the next. So it is more difficult to perceive in one's own life, your own sentience, your own soul. And yet, lucky for you, this does not matter one little bit to the soul, because it has access to self and to true self. And so most of the time, this is where you meet. You meet in yourself. It is a little bit as if you are to invite companions to share your day or your environment with you, and you invite them into what you call the living room, a room in which you may cohabit, a shared environment that is yours and one that you are willing to share. Look, here is something that I may offer you. May I offer you some coffee, some water, some tea? May I offer you some hospitality? You see, when you receive someone into this environment, you are much more willing to truly receive, to invite, to share. And so in moments such as these, you are more open, you are more hospitable. By contrast, when you receive someone into an office, well, they had better know that you are a busy person and that you have a certain time commitment. And so you have already allotted them some amount of time. The clock is ticking, whether you have said to them or not. Your body language has said, I am a busy person, the clock is ticking, time is money, and like that. And so you would not easily perceive your soul in that environment either. And so you see, in order to create a state of wellness, an environment of wellness, which is where we are going with this subject, by the way, it is important that you know where it is, how to receive it, how to offer and receive hospitality, so that in return you will receive what the soul has to offer, which is the ability to know the simplicity of joy just for the moment itself, without an agenda. Not joy because you have finally succeeded in this or that. Not joy because you have made it through the end of the month, or made your commitment, kept your diet, or what it would be. It is for the celebration of the simplicity of the moment. When you, as you come into these conditions of wellness, in these living environments in which you meet, you will see that some of the harder edges of life become a little bit softened. The mind remains alert and engaged, but not so that it must also be prepared to defend. And that is where much of humanity is now. What must it guard against now? What need it defend against now? What needs protection? Is it the mind, the thoughts, the ideas, the heart? What needs to be protected? The soul, as we have said earlier, comes now to a time where it wishes to be rejuvenated. This applies to all souls, by the way. So it is not this one, because it is 15 years old, is more rejuvenated than the one over there that is 52 or 58 or 67. It is not like that. The soul is relatively ageless. There is indeed a maturity to souls, and perhaps you have heard expressions such as this one is a young soul, and that one is an old soul. And there is a mature soul, and a master soul, and a teacher soul. Yes, these are designations that can be expressed. They are expressions that have been earned to a soul that has journeyed inward and outward and throughout its essence. But interestingly, the more that a soul journeys, the more that it discovers about itself or about life, regardless of how that life is expressed, the more that the soul celebrates life itself. Not purpose, just life. Because the soul has come to understand that, of course, life is purposeful. It is never purposeless. That would be impossible. And so while moments in time would seem to you to take too long, too slow, or have gone by too fast, for the soul, it has all been relatively perfect. Relatively, because it follows a different flow, a different order. For the soul, it is not always chaos making order. At times it is simply order redefining order. A higher order, if you like, than appears to be for the everyday personality that is always busy sorting through to-do lists, shopping list, soulful list, spiritual list, reading list, accomplishing list, discovery list, management lists, and like that. So again, while either the personality grows more mature, while the body seems to age a little bit in this way or that way, the soul becomes more youthful, more playful, more actively interested in your life, and can be of great assistance in how to soften the edges of life, how to assist life in becoming more smoother. And that is our topic then. What is coming in terms of wellness? Why now? Where is it coming from, and what will it look like? It will seem to you that we are speaking now a little bit of the future. And, well, we are. But the future is also now. It is now to the soul. The topics that we will speak of now will seem to you rather interesting. And you will say, and when is that coming? And how soon will that be on the market? Can I buy one now? And some of it can be almost now. You will begin to see it, glimpses of it in your everyday life. But as you become more interested in these environments, your soul will be able to assist you in creating them now, in inviting them now, in youthful and interesting ways. So, not to keep you in suspense any longer, let us begin with more specifics. You see, you have been designed, well designed, to live in wellness. This means health. Health is a form of wellness. Originally, your bodies were designed to last a much longer time than they are lasting now. Designed is an appropriate name. Crafted is another name. The DNA that makes you what you are was crafted. Crafted out of the finest materials. Crafted in the best environments. And designed specifically for the earth environment. The parts that were not completely well suited for the earth environment came to be adapted. For the earth being, the human being, that part that relates specifically to the earth is curious, is adaptable, is engaging, and can easily make itself at home in almost any environment. And so the human being was well crafted, well designed for many different environments. But over time, over a great deal of time, some of those environments, as you know, have become polluted. Some have become in conditions that are deteriorating, and some are quite deplorable, we must say. Of course, these words can be applied to both inner and outer environments. They can be applied to the mind, to thoughts, to inner environments. They can be applied to work environments and to educational environments, political, governmental, and to all systemic environments. And although the human being is well adaptable, it must have good reason to adapt. One reason is simply to survive. All organisms wish to survive. It is the prime directive to survive, to grow, to become, to discover, to journey, to move outward and inward, to know endings and beginnings in all expressions of life. And so this being the prime directive is enough, should be enough, until it isn't. Until it simply isn't. And because you find yourself now near the end of one age and very near the beginning of the next, one prime directive begins to shift a little, become a little bit uncomfortable here, a little jittery there. And there comes time for the next directive, the next step, the next stage in evolution, the next place of discovery, and the next journey. And so when this begins to come near an end, wellness begins to suffer, and it begins to deteriorate, and this on all accounts. And so it will seem as if the body begins to age just a little bit more quickly. And of course, because the human being does not wish at least to have the appearance of aging, then all type of wellness formulas are worth the purchase. And so we will begin there, where wellness is missing. Wellness is missing. It is missing, and the youth gene is missing. And the more that it is missing, the more that humanity, in one culture or another in different ways, craves that. It craves its youthful nature again. It begins to seek, where did it go? Where did my youth go? When did I abandon it? When did I lose my childhood? It begins to think, and what went wrong here and there? What went wrong with this aspect of my childhood, with this relationship, with mother or father or sister or brother? It begins to re-examine what went wrong, where went wrong. And as the mind begins to examine its past, the body also does the same. It would seem to you that the body is only an obedient slave to the master mind, but that is not the case. The body has its own memory banks in all of the cells of the body. That is why, even if the body becomes scarred, the mind remembers it and the body remembers it. It leaves a residue. There is a memory that remains there. And so the body also begins to examine, where did its youth go? Why is it this way and not that way? Creating within the body as well a desire for youth. Not exactly perpetual youth, though if you asked many, they would certainly be takers for that as well. But something that enhances youth. Something that enhances the ability to return to a more youthful nature. That is where you will wish your next beginning to be. It is not where you would wish the ending to be. And so life, able to regenerate itself the way that it does, well, that is where it begins. And so those that seek to bring comforts to humanity will begin to bring into the marketplaces, into accessible reaches, how to re-enhance, rejuvenate, re-stimulate the body and the mind and all of the different environments that these are carried into. To give you an example, already you know that there are certain wellness formulas that you may purchase for yourself. And of course these can be related to herbs, they can be related to vitamins, they can be related to all different manner of plant-based, animal-based, mineral-based. And now humanity seeks this. It is not simply those that acquire or reach a certain age. It is those that are even younger and wish to remain ageless. They will take one view at even one that is but a few years older, 2 or 3 years, and already they would say to you, I believe I can maintain my body at a greater perspective, my mind more agile than that. I will think and see things differently and for a longer time than my mother or my brother or my uncle. And so those that are of that mind will put themselves in certain markets and certain arenas where they will begin to create products that do just that. So there will be those wellness formulas that are far more advanced than the ones that you see around you now. And these enhanced formulas, for the most part plant-based, will be accelerated from where they are now. You see, now those that work in either the pharmaceuticals or the botanicals or what they are, simply accept a plant for what it is. This is what it looks like. This is where it grows. Here is what it does. This is what it can be counted on and for how long. But those that will go into new and different laboratories, they will have a different thought. And how can we enhance, not necessarily control, but how can we enhance the good nature of this seed or this plant so that it will do the same for us? And so plants, for instance, will be treated in the very same way that you would wish to be treated. There will be environments with just the proper lighting. And there will be soil and seeds that are enhanced. Now, careful, for as you begin to contemplate this subject, some part of you will already begin to say, but that is wrong, and we should not do that. Nature is nature, and it should be left to be natural. But come now, how do you think nature adapts? Why does nature adapt? Nature adapts to the needs of the environment that it is in. That is part of its purpose as well. So nature adapts, for instance, to the amount of sunlight that it is near, to the minerals in the soil. But it also adapts to the needs and desires of all of the kingdoms and elements that it shares the earth with. And humanity being the most important or most prominent of those kingdoms, if humanity asks nature to adapt in certain ways, it will. Long and longer ago than you can imagine, the plants were great and potent parts of the soil in many different regions of the world where they no longer exist now. Great and giant were the trees, much, much larger varieties than you see now. The same is true of flowers. The same is true of certain grains. Even what you know now of wheat was long ago had an ancestor that was great and giant, 40 feet tall and such. It could grow. And it was not that so much wheat was necessary, but it also was used for many other benefits then as well, and it supported a different earth. So remember that nature bends, it is resilient, and it offers itself to the needs that are most important to humanity. Now, in this way then, plants can be enhanced, seeds can be enhanced, and they can be asked, not controlled, asked to offer themselves in such a way as will assist humanity to rejuvenate its wellness, to restore itself. This is much different than what you see around you now, where certain substances are infused into seeds so that they will no longer produce. In essence, this is the opposite of that, and yet can achieve even higher results. One can begin to communicate directly with a seed, asking it that one recognizes the divine properties that it occupies, and that these wish to be enhanced now, that it is time for certain properties to be developed that will be of greater benefit to mankind, for longevity and for wellness of spirit. And you will see that the soul, the very soul of the species, which can also easily communicate with your own soul and the soul of humanity as a community, begin to work together so that there are mutations. Now, how will you know? How will you know the difference between a mutated seed, one that has been forced to grow in a certain environment in order to be controlled, or one that has been simply consciously enhanced? Well, that is certainly a subject to be contended with. The way that you will know is to what you are drawn to. Because the seeds themselves will speak to you, the plants themselves will speak to you. And as your own intuitive wellness becomes stronger, like will attract like. That is the simplest version, the simplest way to put it. For if you put 10 seeds side by side, today, more than likely very few of you could recognize what has been enhanced versus what has been controlled. But in a short time, you will begin to see that you become more and more intuitive. Now, as these different projects come forward, there are some that will say, "Oh, but they have drugged the seeds. Look, they are drunk. And because they are drunk now, they are able to inject this into them and do that to them, and they have forced them to grow under certain environments." But no, that is one facet, and there are those that will make this attempt, but it will not be a long-lasting attempt. There are natural ways and natural varieties that understand that there is great power to harness. And these particular seeds and plants can be charged by the sun, charged by the moon, and by a variety of other lighting environments. And in essence, one can alter the mood of the seed before it is planted. Now think upon this. You can alter your mood by taking something that is an extraction from a plant or a seed or a root or what it will be. Now, if that can be done after the fact, why not do it before? Why not create already seeds that will grow, that which has already been enhanced based upon desire, changed and charged by lighting, by conditions of need and desire. In the beginning, not all specimens will relate to this, but over time they will. And there is indeed a plant-based science that is being born even now out of the botanicals that will lead to the emotional well-being of humanity. Much more so than it is today. Certainly today there are that which considers the emotional well-being, the mental agility, the physical prowess, and like that. But these will become more defined, and as they become more defined, as their importance becomes more defined, they will become more enhanced. Now remember that as we began this topic, we spoke of the soul. So here, we are not simply speaking of the personality's desire for a little bit more youthful appearance. It is not a few cosmetics or hair dyes that we are interested in here. It is not a wrinkle reversal formula. It is in fact a true age reversal formulas that can be enhanced. And why? Why reverse the age process? Why concentrate on youth? Well, because as we do so, you will begin to find that the mind does become more agile, more interested in a variety of projects and environments. It becomes more awakened. It becomes more conscious. Is it not consciousness, after all, that you seek? Here we have blended two topics together, even three. It would not seem that we could speak together of consciousness and cosmetics all at once. They would seem to be opposed. What a paradox. But no, even there are cosmetics that, based upon the technology that we are describing, not only would make one appear to be more youthful, but would so convince you that indeed you have become more youthful, that the very thoughts that you would have would be more youthful, more interesting, more creative, more enlightening, and other qualities that you were not able to have when you were youthful of a younger age. These would be created within you now. Why not be more playful, if that were possible? Now, playful and youth, it is not simply childish games that we speak of here. I do not say to you, simply encourage you to take this drug, prescriptive or otherwise, in order to be childish or relive a childhood that you are not entitled to at a younger age. No. It is the ability to genetically, emotionally, and hyper-physically engage in a more youthful version of life, a more engaging, collective community of beings that are not as protective, without as much need to hide behind closed doors or closed minds. So here we are speaking of altering environments. Everything from the physical to the emotional to the mental, to bridge gaps that existed in different times in order to have a more full, a more complete version of life. There is no need to say, next time I would do this, next time around, or too bad I never got to do this or that, and now it is too late. What if it were not too late? What if you could indeed rejuvenate some of the organs of the body? What if they could become more youthful? The organs of the body would then offer to you more longevity. This is what we are after here. And so we are speaking of a variety of different ways in which nature will work with the human kingdom. The nature kingdoms will work with the human kingdom in order to re-enhance and rejuvenate humanity, so that it will once again have a longer lifespan in bodies that are more comfortable, that are organized by their very organs, structured by their very organs to operate in more healthful ways, to rest when there is true need for rest, but to be more engaging and alive in moments where less rest is also possible. If the human being were simply left alone as it is now, well, it would last another century or two, 10 and 20 as a matter of fact. But the lifespan would continue to lengthen for a little bit longer, but then shorten. In other words, you would live a little bit longer than you do now, but with organs that rot a little bit sooner than they do now. You would need more knee replacement, hip replacement, heart replacement, liver, pancreas replacement. And so would come a point in which the being, the body, could not live as long. The mind as well could not adjust again and again and again. The mind would be less agile, less able to adjust to change, less able to adjust to an economic high turn or low turn. Either way, it would simply not adjust as quickly. Why? Well, in many ways because of how you live and what you consume and the very environments that you occupy. These, after a time, would continue to atrophy the mind and the body. And so we are attempting to bring to you awareness of different industries that are coming forward that will bring longevity and enhancement again to mind and body and to that youthful spring. And so it is the soul, the very soul of humanity, that already sees this, envisions it, and is already at work with the mind of the young ones, with the bodies of the young ones, and with all of those that are open to such discussions as these. Along these lines, there will be more flower-based formulas as well. Interestingly, flowers are not quite as easy to trick into becoming circus performers as many of the plants have become. Many of the plants have been conditioned out of the pesticides and out of all other form of genetic engineering to perform this way or that way. Flowers are a little bit more intelligent than that, and they are not as easily to trick. Particularly those flowers that have a fragrance. And regardless of whether you consider that fragrance of the stinky variety or the sweet variety, they are more evolved versions of plants. And so flowers will have a certain intelligence to them as well. Flowers will again be consumed as delicacies of plant. In some ways, how you consume certain delicacies of the animal kingdom, there are many flowers that will return to be very unique delicacies, and not simply because of their taste or because of their fragrance, but because of how they will indeed enhance the brain and the mind's capacity to be or to discover itself. Now, we are not here speaking simply of those that would be considered hallucinogens. These are of a unique variety, and these are very intelligent as well, and can be taught or asked to help with a variety of differences, from anesthesia, for one, a way to convince the mind to be elsewhere during a certain operation. But these flowers can be of great assistance to the mind as well, to bring youthful ideas to the mind, to restore to the mind what it lost in perspective. There are certain flowers that can be counted upon to ease grief. You will say, these already exist today, and I will agree with you wholeheartedly. But what you now have that works very, very subtly, what I refer to here, will work in ways that would surprise and even astound you. So quick would it be that it would seem almost magic to you. And why not? And why not? The mind, the body, and the brain, and the emotions, when they are all working together, and when they are in concert with the other kingdoms, that is when much can be accomplished and discovered and brought to bear in a variety of ways. You will see that the flowers will then also become, well, in some ways, teachers to certain plants. There are plants that will make you stronger. They will make you smarter. They will even be able to take certain skills that you already have, even physical skills, and enhance these so that you become more physically able to do a task. So thought and action will be enhanced by a plant, and they will become a very highly respected resource, not simply a consumable as it is now. So there is an inkling that I offer to you of great changes and enhancements that are coming to the plant kingdom. You must imagine that as you become more enhanced, curious, conscious, remember that you are but one kingdom of the earth. If it is true for you, it is also true for the other kingdoms. Now, it is not a subject for today, though we will consider it in the future. But as humanity becomes more conscious and more attuned to the gifts and intelligence of the plant kingdom, it will naturally become less curious about consuming the animal kingdom. Many have asked, and how long will be eating meat and beef and the chickens and the ducks and the geese and this and that? You will consume it for as long as you wish to consume it. It will not all of a sudden be taken from you. Oh no. But over time, the natural interest of humanity will move toward the plant base because it will see the benefit of these. And as it finds benefit in these, they will be as well naturally enhanced. You will have more craving, more interest in plant-based foods, and they will become much more creatively put together for your behalf as well. Of course, there are those that will make the plant-based foods taste much more like the animal kingdom. So perfected will these be for a time that you would not truly be able to tell the difference. But beyond that, there will be a natural desire to move away from the animal kingdom. It will take time, some time, and we offer no judgment here. It is not better to do this than that, but humanity's own evolution will carry it to a certain other perspective, another interesting way to live. Changes will continue to take place, therefore, in the brain. The brain has been seen until now, well, as a regulator of thoughts and as the caretaker of the body and the body's well-being. The brain says, you are tired, go to sleep. The brain says, I have had coffee, I am stimulated now. And so it seems only that it controls the body. But the brain is much more than that as well. And not only does the brain have an ability to regulate the body can also regulate itself in different ways. That aside, those that study the brain, how the brain responds to this and how the brain responds to that, well, that will create another market of its own. And although science understands now how to stimulate the brain, it is also discovering how to simulate the brain. In other words, the brain thinks for itself and then does not. The brain can be induced to think a certain way or act a certain way. But think for a moment now. Is it more interesting to do things or think things or create things when they are your idea, or when you have been induced or influenced to do them by someone else's idea? Which one has more creativity? Is it more creative when you think your own thoughts about your own ideas, or when someone says to you, do it this way, go here, do this, do that? That's how it's done. And so those that wish to stimulate and enhance creativity can begin to simulate to the brain how to do that, how to think in certain places of the brain in a way that is community-oriented, singular or individual oriented towards a certain project, how to become more or less creative. There are a variety of ways to enhance not just thoughts, but the entire brain activity, so that the brain recognizes all aspects not only of health, but of well-being of all of the different organs, and can creatively engage or draw to itself what would bring wellness to every different segment of its being. It is the brain that can be, in essence, taught to speak or to create different kinds of thoughts. Now, you are not quite in charge of your thoughts. Not truly. You think this way and then do not know why you thought about this or that at the particular moment. Or you try wholeheartedly to concentrate on a certain project but find that you cannot. Or try as you might to emulate the goodness of another or their good example. You simply cannot follow that good example, at least not today or in this moment. And so there will be wellness environments in which the brain can not be trained. It is not that. It can be enhanced in a very positive function to become more yours. Imagine it this way, a little bit as if you are training your own mind. You are training your own mind to serve you in ways that are more productive, more creative, in ways that engage you consciously, so that you will see the world as a more creative, beautiful place. And as you begin to think this way, well, remember again earlier we began with the soul, and the soul seeing a more youthful, more beautiful appearance to life itself. And so brain and mind and soul will come closer together. There will be less struggle in this regard. Now, as I described to you some of these changes, already you imagine that someone will change you, that someone will sell you something, that someone will order or organize a change within you, that this will in some way be inflicted upon you. And although these examples will certainly exist, the purpose of our gathering and of this discussion is to show you the very positive effects that you will draw to yourself. You will choose this. Not because you have been brainwashed to see or think in a certain way, or because of any consumer-oriented decisions that you will make, but because they are true enhancement to the human being. Literally, your beingness will speak to you, and you will see the merit in this. And you will see that your brain will begin to choose it as well. As it does so, it will begin to become active in other areas that are not understood now by science. They have probed and touched and wondered, and what is this for, and what does that do, and when did we use that, and when will it become active? This is what we are speaking of. We are speaking of different aspects of the brain coming online naturally, because it is a time of developmental nature where the very soul can infuse genetically within the psyche, within that connection where the soul touches all things. That is where these enhancements and changes will come from. And yes, they will also be available in your cultures and in your solar societies, in your structures. They will come about naturally. As they do so, there will be other changes in the way that you live as well. And so you will wish to have certain environmental solutions. And so here we may speak a little bit, if you like, of houses of the future and how these will begin to be constructed in a different way. Already there are many different models. Some of the houses that you occupy will not be quite as large as some of the ones that you have now. It will depend upon the geographic area in which you make your home. Some of them will indeed be larger than what you have now as well. You may think of them a little bit as pods, if you like. Pods as part of a community. They will be made to your individual liking, but they will be shaped somewhat similarly. And there will be a community hub that many can participate in. It will not be inflicted upon you, and you do not need to, but you will find that to each of these communities there will be, in fact, community school, community garden, community resources, community, that you can truly draw upon and within, that and those that are more suitable to you. There will be houses that can follow the sun. Imagine then that a house, one that is a little bit more rounded, a little bit truly more pod-like, a little bit more like a dome, hexagonal, octagonal in different ways, and that it can rotate so that it can follow the sun. If it can follow the sun, in different ways, or that you can position it so that certain rooms will be more sunny environments at certain aspects of the day or at others. This will not be difficult to do based upon how they are built. They will be built as if a flower on top of a stalk. So there will be, in essence, a plant, a stem, and that stem will then lead to a root. That root, which will then be beneath the ground, will also naturally support all of the other communities. So it will be well-constructed community in which it truly is connected in different ways. But the root system of each one will support a stem, and the stem will support an individual pod. And then the dome will receive the solar energies, and room by room it can either accent the light or dim the light. Either way, it will receive more benefits than those homes that you have now. These will be built on suspension axes, just off the ground at first, although a later invention of these will be ones that can be elevated or lowered, simply for perspective as it would be. And much later then you will also have that which you would call sky cities, or those that can be truly raised into different positions, hovering just above the earth. But again, that is more to the future. In terms of the materials of these, they will be constructed of certain alloys. Imagine if you could take then wood, which can be mixed with certain metals that are willing to blend, so that mineral kingdom and wood come together to create a very strong, but at the same time flexible material, a breathable material. It will truly be made of metal and wood and plant all together, but it will act as a kind of fiber, as a kind of breathable fiber. And these will make very fine and solid walls, but ones that also allow a true heating and cooling of nature to move in and through environments, so they will not be as canned, what you have now, canned air, not simply refreshed by air conditioning. They will be conditioned by nature to be suitable. Again, there come the resources, and there come those that are ready to build and have the fine, rejuvenated mind with such thoughts as can bring these materials to bear. It is already possible to do this now, and with a little bit of fine tuning, rather than arm twisting, you will see some of these changes come about. House paint, another subject, that will also begin to change and be available in different substances than it is now. There are materials in which paint can create as well that which can change not simply the lighting but also the mood. There are certain paints based as well on what nature will offer, on which the plants and the flowers will offer, where it can be coordinated with one's own rhythm, so that each one could have, for instance, their own room encoded by a certain color. You may say, well, if that is so, then does that mean that no one can come into my room or live in this environment if it is painted in my own color? Well, no, not entirely, because the particular nature of this paint will make it so that each one can program their own rhythms, similar to a biorhythm, into the home's or computer. And so, as each one would walk into an environment, it would become their environment. Their wellness would be suitable. They would bring well together then. Their health would be enhanced in that particular color, and it is more than just a color. It is a vibration that will be created that can emanate into the room. It is not so difficult to imagine this if you let your mind wander just a little bit. If you walk into an environment now, and very simply you take something as simple as a candle of a certain color or fragrance, and light that, and give yourself just a moment with that, you will already feel different about that room or that environment than you did the moment before. By that simple act and interacting with something as simple as a candle's flame or scent. So this is the same idea, but enhanced a little bit different, and with a material that is as yet a little bit unknown to you. Of course, one of your other questions may be, well, if that is the case, and what if there are 3 or 4 of us in the same environment? What color or fragrance or emanation will the room have? Well, again, it will be something that involves a community. The community feeling. The very computer will receive the rhythms of all. And not only a generalized rhythm, but a daily specific rhythm for each one, so that coordinated very naturally so, a room's environment can change and support each one. It will be an activator. It will be called something to that degree, a biorhythm activator. It can be controlled then for stimulation or non-stimulation. It can enhance a variety of different aspects. Then it is not only the wall paint. There are different paints as well that will be given to the ceilings, and these would be able to emulate a daytime sky or a nighttime sky as most appropriate. Some of them will have a certain sparkle to their texture, not in a garish way, but in a way that truly says, that which is above me is alive and engaged. It will be that which truly mirrors some of the qualities of the nighttime sky, for instance. And remember that some of these homes that we described will have a certain dome as well, and the dome as well made of a glass-like substance, but more of a certain polymer, will also be able to take from all of the different enhancements of all of the different skies that can be offered, and offer to you the very best environment that will be well suited to your creativity. Artificial lighting in the homes will not be quite as artificial as it is now. There will be ways to store not only solar energy, but solar light, so that those appliances or those lamps that you have will be emitting solar or daylight light to you. It will be much different than it is now. Again, already almost able to go to market with a few enhancements, simply not able mass market yet. But remember, you have not asked for it yet. You have not asked for it yet. Your minds do not yet think it is quite possible or affordable. Your minds do not quite think, not in my lifetime, perhaps in the next generations. And so these are the thoughts that must organically change, so that you do not say to yourself, that seems a little bit too far-fetched, that seems a little bit too far away, perhaps after I am gone or in my next life. Those thoughts are the very ones that you will do away with. Those are the thoughts of an aging mind and an aging body. And so, a more youthful or soulful thought simply says, that is very interesting. I can't wait to have one, or share one, or see one, or buy one, or live in one, partake in one. Let it be. Let it be that those that will create these things will make them so for you, and will bring them to. Many other environments will continue to change in your favor as well. There will be a program in the near future called Solutions for Soldiers, or something to that degree. And of course that will not quite go about until the world begins to run out of soldiers, or has too many of those that are returning, that are missing this and that, as you well imagine. And in these cases, there will be other intelligences that come about as well. For instance, already you have seen that there are fine replacements for limbs, for arms and legs, and some of these have come to be quite life-like, you could say, prosthetic devices. But there is a next generation of these that are coming as well, ones that can be directly linked to brain and muscle functions, so that one entirely different muscle group can control another. For instance, let's say that a dear one is missing a lower left leg, but their right leg is intact. Well, the prosthetic can be fitted so that the mind understands that it is the right leg that now controls both left and right. So it is not simply that one would be putting on the left and the left becomes a hindrance and only the right is alive. One could easily compensate for the other. It is simply a matter of telling, training, assisting the mind to coordinate better left and right. And this it can do with a part of the brain that is a unified brain, where there is not left brain, right brain controls, but ones that truly control both at once. In some ways, these particular ones would be more ambidextrous. They would be easily then able to strengthen left or right sides. And of course, this is only one example that I offer to you. There are many different ways to enhance the body's biology. There are many different ways to incorporate what would seem to you today to be artificial. There are ways in which they can become much more natural, much more organic, and they will. It will be true the same of different educational environments. For those old Ivy League institutions, well, the younger ones are not as interested in these, perhaps in name only, but not in the old way or the old school. And so classrooms will also change in mood and environment. And you see the young ones, just as I have described to you a home that is just a little bit of the future, the educational environments will be much more as this as well. They will be true living laboratories where one can immediately put to use what they are learning, not simply store it away in a brain long enough to pass an examination or earn a degree. The moment that one has learned something, the example of life would be put, not in a difficult way, not in a challenging way, but in a curious way. Look, here is what you can do with that. Here is how to be of service to that. Here is how you will make a difference in the world. And one would be able to try on a variety of professions. Here is what it would be like to live in this environment, or to teach, or to bring about a different profession, or to invent. There will be a variety of living laboratories. You may imagine these to look a little bit like gardens, or a little bit like holographic environments, although they will be more realistic than you can imagine. And there will be many opportunities for young minds to expand quickly and to imagine themselves in many different ways. As we have been speaking of all of these near future subjects, one cannot help but be drawn into their own workplace. And, well, the sharp contrast of what we have been speaking of compared to today's workplace, it is almost too difficult to imagine how one can change from one environment to another. After all, imagine today even what you would consider a modern factory, a modern production environment, a modern office building, complete with all of its little cubicles. These do not necessarily coax the idea of creativity forward. But this will not last long as well. And the reason is that it is not simply productivity that is going down now in the workplace. Efficiency is going down as well. Perhaps you can see this. Perhaps you can see that there is a breakdown, not only in communication between one being and another, not simply between one that is in management and another that is in a production capacity, not simply employer-employee, There is a breakdown even in what is being constructed, built, created, shipped. And between all of this, there is that which wants to change. And so that which is organic and inorganic, that which is production and efficiency, all that begins now to not collapse, not yet. There is still a great deal of time for change and desire for change, but the work environments must be adapted in many different ways, or indeed, here I tell you, that they will collapse. Particularly, it is of the womankind that will bring changes to the environment. Perhaps you have already noted that there are a great deal of woman gender, more so in the workplace than at any other time. In order for the woman to be in the workplace, the child, those dear to the woman, families are separated, parted out during the day, this one to school and that one to here, to different cities, to different environments. That will not do. And so those that bring about the fine, not only feminine mind, but the ideas of another gender, they will begin to bring changes to the workplace as well. So there are different ways to relate to one's loved ones throughout the day. Forms of communication will be introduced, perhaps even so that mothers can view their younger ones in their educational environments or in others, connecting to them, not simply viewing them on a screen, but truly connecting with them at different times of the day, so that one can be in a work environment and at the same time share in a community space, so that one can indeed be a creative and efficient mother and a very careful and dedicated employee at the same time. Those in the workspace today, for the most part, are frustrated. They are tired, and they are ill-convinced that where they are is the right place for them, or the right earning potential, or the right city to be in, to dwell in, to work in. And so there will begin to be changes in this regard as well. Migrations of workers from one environment to another. Different ways to work in environments in which to work in. All of this goes by way then of wellness. That which we have been speaking of then, well, perhaps it would seem to you, as we said, a little bit in the future. Very nice, Gaia. Lovely subject. Had a great time envisioning it and considering it. But it doesn't seem as if it will happen tomorrow. I would like it to happen tomorrow, but not quite, perhaps. Well, I will agree with you to a certain regard. But it is not truly the world of a farther or a distant tomorrow that I have been describing to you. Indeed, I have been describing to you the world of a very near future, your near future, if you will have it this way. And so allow your soul to speak to you, not simply in your living room where you would receive it as a guest. Allow your soul the intimacy that it rightly deserves. Allow your soul to gently guide you to that place in your heart and mind that knows that that which we have spoken of now is not only possible, but is next to tomorrow, just next door, just waiting for a few others like you to say, it is time, and let it be so. And so as you begin to see these possibilities, let them be just that. Do not bother now, today, to think of the price tag. Oh, well, even if that does come about, a pretty price tag that will have, out of my league, surely. No, Perhaps not. It is the way. It is the way of change, and this is the time of change. It is time of evolution, adaptation. It is a very creative time, and your spirit and that of others is engaged. It is alive. It is aware, and you will begin to see more and greater change. At the same time, do not forget that in order for something new to be built, other things may fall by the wayside in more ways than you imagine as well. If something falls, let it fall and create out of that something. If someone falls, do not pass them by in your haste for the next new thing. Pause. Lift them up. Lift a spirit. Lift a hand. Give a hand. And you will see that you reach your destination. Not in haste, and yet a moment before you thought you would arrive. All things in their due time, in their due course. And these things that we have spoken of, they are due. And they are part of your own course. Indeed, sweet ones, I bring to you not the world of tomorrow, but the world of today. Not the mind or the soul of tomorrow, but that which is already yours today. Indeed, I am pleased to have shared this moment with you. Until the next one brings us together, I bid you good day.